Hello designers! Today we're going to be creating a menu design using Adobe InDesign. This menu design is going to be for a fictional pizzeria named Macaroni Pizza. Macaroni Pizza offers make your own pizzas and make your own gelato sundae options. For our menu design, we're going to be using the tables feature on InDesign, and we're going to be using a combination of text styles so that we can create a very aesthetically beautiful, organized, and informative menu. Here's my example from several years ago. You can see on one side I featured Macaroni's make your own pizza menu with the different topping options, which you guys will have full artistic freedom to edit any way you want. And on the second side we have our gelato sundae toppings, and what I would like you guys to do is to do a 2-page spread, so that ideally if we were going to print it for a real restaurant, they could basically just fold it in half to give to their clients or laminate to present as a whole. So without further ado, let's get started by going to InDesign, and we're going to click on New File. We're going to select the print preset and leave our blank document as a letter size. And we are going to set our document to 2 pages with a starting page of 2. And we have to make sure that it says facing pages right here by checking off this little option. We're going to call this document menu, and we're going to click create. Before I start adding in all of the tables with the different menu options, I'm going to be working on my master page so I can create an illustrated background for my menu design. So for this, you guys have artistic freedom to select any kind of background you would like. I previously went and downloaded some images from pexels.com that I'm going to be using as my background. So I decided that I want one frame that I'm going to fill with an image of tomatoes and vegetables and other kinds of Italian delicacies. And as you can see, the image is quite large, so I'm going to right click and select fitting and fill frame proportionately, so that the image is fit in a far nicer way. I know I'm not going to want to layer all of the menu options on top of just the tomatoes images, so what I'm going to do is, while still in the master page, I'm going to drag out some additional frames, and I'm going to align them to the purple margins. And I'm going to try to sample the color of the tomatoes if I can, but if I can't, I'll probably just try to replicate them as best as possible. So that's what I'll do, I guess, because I don't feel like looking for the eyedropper tool to try to sample that. So I'm just going to go and select a muted pink, maybe. I always have the ability to change it later if I change my mind. And I'm going to hold down Alt and drag so I can make a duplicate to place on page 2 here. And again, I'm just aligning it with the purple guides, and you will see that these 2 frames are going to show up on the actual content pages. So if I were to extend the menu by adding more pages, everything that is on the master page will be reflected here as well. But for now, I just need pages 2 and 3. What I'm going to do before I start working on those is I'm actually going to lower the opacity, because I do like that color, but the opacity is a little strong. So I'm going to lower it so you can actually see the tomato image. I think I'll lower it to about 70% for both. And now I'm ready to click out of the master page and start working on page number 2. So make sure you guys click on page number 2 until it's highlighted in blue, and then you're ready to start adding some of the content for your menu design. Since I last left off, I actually made some changes to the frames that I had in my master page. As you can see, I'm going to press W to go into preview mode. As you can see, I selected a darker hue of that red that I was using before, because I felt like the lighter one was a little bit distracting. and then I added a white stroke around them. If you want to do something similar to that, all you have to do is click on the frame and then go up to the little stroke swatch, and then you can select the color to fill it with and increase the point size. So I just added a white stroke of 4 points around the frames, and I feel like that looks a little bit more professional. If any of you are wondering why the image in the background looks pixelated, you can fix that issue by going to View, Display Performance, and selecting High Quality Display, and you won't be seeing the pixelation issue anymore. And if you still are, then I suggest selecting a different image altogether, because it just means the image is too small. Okay, I'm gonna double click on page 2 again so that I can focus on the content that's going to be going in page 2. I know I want the name of Macaroni Pizzeria to be big and centered in the first page, so I'm gonna drag out a frame, and I'm going to use my type tool and click inside to write out the name Macaroni. I definitely will be playing around with installing some fonts from dafont.com to go and make this work a little bit more thematic, but for now I'm going to leave it as is using this Gill Sans Ultra Bold font, and later I will edit this further once I have several character styles to go and make my work a little bit easier. Okay, so the name of the place is on there. I'm going to start working on the actual menu items. Let me actually make this frame a little bit smaller so I have a little bit of space, and then I'm going to go and drag out a brand new frame. And this one I'm not going to align necessarily to the guides. I'm going to make the frame a little bit smaller so it doesn't touch the guides. Remember, you guys do want to respect the rules of negative space. And here I'm going to create the menu. So having created that frame, I'm going to click inside the frame with the type tool, and then I'm going to go to the table table menu at the top of my workspace, and I'm going to select Insert Table. And I'm going to say 4 rows and maybe 4 columns with 1 header row, and I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to use my type tool, and I'm going to start typing up some options in the basic menu before I start editing the actual look of the menu itself. So I think here, let me go ahead and center my text. I'm going to start with the crust because it is like a make your own pizza menu. The sauce, the cheese, and the toppings. And you guys, by the way, can individualize your own menu designs by doing whatever selection of items you think should go on the menu. So in other words, if you want squirrel blood and dog feces to go on the menu, well, that's up to you. You're the designer, so you can have fun with it. I'm going to keep it more traditional because this is something that I think I might want to include in my portfolio, so a prospective employer, I think, wouldn't want to see squirrel blood on the menu. So I'm going to keep it basic. Remember, you guys are respecting the rules of typographic hierarchy by making certain things stand out more. So for example, I am using all caps on the header rows so that they will show up as slightly more important than the toppings that I'm listing underneath. And then I will also, of course, be editing the colors and the fonts so that I can respect the rules of typographic hierarchy a little further. So I'm going to take a few minutes to pause the video and fill in some of these options because that might be a little bit boring to you guys. And once I'm finished, I will show you how to edit the table and make it a little bit more aesthetically appealing. Okay, designers, you can see that I pretty much finished all the options that are going to go inside the menu design, so now I just have to edit the way it actually looks. I am going to click inside of this frame to select it, and then using my type tool, click inside of the options, and the first thing I'm going to do is actually go and highlight the menu options using my type tool so that I can go and increase the type size, because as you can see, it's set to a pretty small point size, and you want the people to actually be able to see it, right? So I think I'm gonna leave it at 18 points, and I'm gonna do the same for each of the headers. I think I'm gonna make those about 24 points so that they stand out a little bit more. Yes, 24 points will do. Now it is time for us to add some color to this menu and make it a little bit more appealing. So I'm going to highlight and then go into the table menu, table options, and table setup. And I'm going to make sure that I have a border around my table. Oh, make sure you guys click on that little checkbox that says preview so you guys can see in real time what that looks like. And I'm going to add a white border around it, and I'm going to make it about 2 points. I'm going to select fill. In fact, let me not highlight so I can actually view it. I'm going to go back to table options, table setup, and now I'm going to select fills, and I'm going to select an alternated pattern of every, let me think. I think I'll just do like every row. I'm going to select every other row, and then that's basically going to add a little bit of color so that you can see the menu options, especially since we have a dark background. And I think I'm just going to go and add further rows. I'm just going to add all 4 rows to make them a little bit easier to view, and I'm going to click OK. I am going to now select the header, and in my control bar I'm going to select a color from my fill, and I think I'm going to try to maybe go with a red. That certainly stands out, but it's not really what I want it to look like, so I'm going to adjust the space in between all of these menu options. And to do so, I'm just going to highlight the menu options. And you guys will see that when you highlight, you get an additional set of tools in your control bar. And some of these tools are text-based and some of them are just for the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and maybe align all of these menu options to the center. And I'm going to add a little bit more space by just clicking inside and pressing enter so that I can ungroup them, maybe so that they're not looking so cluttered, in my opinion. So you can see that with very minor editing, this table looks a lot more spaced out and it looks a little bit easier to read. For example, if you were doing so at a distance, I think I'm going to decide to just center each of the menu options, and I'm pretty happy with how that table looks. So now I think what I'm going to do to add a little bit more content to page 2 is I'm going to start adding some images of the pizza itself and maybe a few reviews to entice further patrons to purchase more pizza. So I'm going to use let me select W to go back into preview mode. I'm sorry, not preview mode, to get out of preview mode. And I am going to use my trusty old frame tool again. And I'm gonna add a grid of about 3 frames. And what I think I'm gonna do is, actually let me make it 2 frames to simplify it. And what I'm gonna do is in 1 frame, I'm going to add a picture of pizza that I downloaded from pexels.com, and in the other one I'm just going to add like a customer commentary where people can know a little bit more about the product itself. So on the right hand frame, I think that's where I'm going to add my little customer commentary, and you guys can just make it up. Try to show macaroni pizza in the best possible light ever. Alright designers, every now and then you're going to want to go into preview mode by clicking W so you guys can see what your menu looks like so far. And that's definitely coming together. I'm going to be making some stylistic changes to my first page here. I'm going to be selecting a more thematic font and a different color for the title, and I'm going to apply some effects and possibly a corner style to the image. I think I'm going to start by doing that by going to the object menu and selecting corner options. I'm going to click preview so I can see what that looks like, and I think I'm going to select an inset corner, and I'm also going to be applying a slight drop shadow effect by going to window and effects, clicking FX and selecting drop shadow. And remember, whenever you guys use effects, go minimal. Minimal is good, less is certainly more when it comes to effects. So that looks decent, I think. Definitely could require a little bit more editing on my part, but that's what the design process is all about. It's just kind of like taking a chance to look at things, and if we don't like them, we always have the ability to make changes. So now I'm going to look for some fonts onto font.com that I think are going to make this a little bit more thematic and more interesting to look at, and then I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do for page 2 of our menu design. As you can see, I've made several changes from where I left off in the video. I added a decorative font for the title, and I also added some very minor effects using that effects panel. I added a very minor drop shadow and an outer glow because I wanted the name to stand out. And I also added alternating colors to the rows in my table. If you want to achieve a similar look, all you have to do is select the table with the type tool, and then you go to the table menu, table options, table setup, and fills, and then you'll be able to add however many rows you want to apply it to and what color you want to apply it to. For the gray row, I had actually selected a black fill, and then I lowered the opacity of that fill, and then for the more peachy ones I selected a red fill and then lowered the opacity of it. And I'm pretty satisfied with the look, so I'm going to click OK. Now I'm ready to start working on page 2 of the menu. So instead of spending all my time designing yet another table, what I'm actually going to do is select this current table, and I'm going to right click and select copy, and then paste the table in. And I think I'm going to alter the layout just a little bit so it's not exactly the same on both sides of the menu. And then all I have to do is basically change the content to reflect the gelato option. So I might start out with, I don't know, cone, flavor, toppings, and so forth. I don't need to go into all of those minor details with you guys. And then I might want to go and maybe fill in like some kind of image grid and create yet another customer testimony for the left hand side. So you can really speed up your process by just kind of copying some of the content that you already have. I decided I hated the corner options, so I'm actually going to go and change them to a different corner options. And I'm actually going to go with a more rounded corner, and I'm going to make it a little more subtle. And now I want to apply those exact same corner options to the grid that I'm going to create here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my object styles by going to Window, Styles, and Object Styles. And I'm going to click, I have this frame selected, so I'm going to click at the bottom of the Object Styles menu where it says Create New Style, and I'm going to call this Menu Pictures or something along those lines, and click OK. Okay, good. So you can see that that style is reflected. So now when I create a new image grid, so I can put pictures of gelato or customer testimonies or whatever it is that I want to do. Let's say I'm going to add 4 pictures, for example. Although I might just minimize it. And I want to just apply those same effects with very little effort. All I gotta do then is click on the object styles, and you guys will see that with literally just one click of my mouse, the same stroke was added, the same drop shadow, and the same corner options. So I really don't need to go and do all of that all over again. So I'm going to pause the video momentarily because I'm going to be adding some images and editing the content in the table itself, and then I'll show you guys how to export your final draft. Alright, my menu for Macaroni Pizzeria is almost complete. I obviously did not edit this content yet, but I am running a little bit out of time, so I'm gonna export it as is because I know you guys will be very diligent about changing that information on your own menu designs. You can see I added some images and I tried to keep the typography pretty consistent, and I tried to keep my use of effects minimal, basically just a little drop shadow in the menu and some of the titles. And I'm ready to export my final draft and put it in print. So to export it, I'm going to go to File, Export, and I'm going to select Adobe PDF Print. And this is important. It should be set to spreads because I want the menu pages to be side by side. So if I select pages only, it's going to be like a typical PDF that you would see for download on a website. So I'm going to make sure it spreads so that when I print it, they are side by side. I'm going to click export, and that will pretty much summarize my work. Hit me up if you have any questions, and I can't wait to see you. Peace out.